Alright guys, I wanted to do this video. I thought that some of my viewers and subscribers might find this subject pretty interesting, and I'm sure some of this stuff has happened to some of the other gun channels that are on YouTube. Let me start by saying, right off the bat before I even start this, that you might think, well, why would somebody contact somebody over the internet and make them a proposition or ask them something that could potentially be illegal and use that as a means to contact somebody? Well, here's the thing, guys. I've been doing this since 2008. Now, the channel I'm currently on dates back to 2009. But before this channel, I had another channel that I started in 2008. And that channel had gotten banned. I was arguing back and forth with some people from a different country on the aspects of guns, and they were anti-gun. And I didn't know anything about YouTube at that time, back in 2008. Pretty much right after YouTube started. And I didn't realize that there were rules. I thought it just kind of ran wide open, like the internet itself does. And basically they turned me in, just basically saying things about their government and talking about their country and different things. And YouTube ended up banning me. Of course, you know, they're California. You know, they'd rather put another country first than other than America. You know, and I like to keep it America first. Anyway, so the reason that some would feel comfortable with contacting someone over the internet was because when people see you for so long, they feel like they know you. And for the most part, they do know you. They don't know everything, but they know you to a certain extent. Let's put it this way. If you had a 9-year-old child when I started doing these videos, that child could right now be in the military. He would be 18 years old. He'd be out of high school. So it just kind of gives you a different way to look at it, just to realize how long I've been doing this. So people get comfortable with you. They know your personality. They get to know different little things about you, and they see you so often on videos that they do feel like they know you. I've met people several times, whether it be in local gun deals or whatever, people that have watched my videos for years, and I'm just surprised at what they know about me. Like I'll go to, like they'll say something about a Glock, and I'll go to tell them something, they'll say, oh yeah, I know that Glock you have, the Vickers, with the X300 on it. Yeah, I've seen that in your videos. You know, it's always something like that that kind of takes me by surprise, that not only do they know so much about me, they remember it. So I wanted to give you some things that's happened to me over the years, some emails, questions I've got, some things flat out illegal, some things just dumb, you know, some things are just kind of hard to figure out, but I just thought it'd be kind of good entertainment for you to hear, you know, the things that have went on over the years. So I'm going to start with this one. This isn't the craziest one. I had a request from, or I had a message from a female that's approximately 2,000 miles away, that she messaged me and said, I trust you. I want to come to where you're at. I want you to train me to shoot, and I want to buy a gun from you. And then I said, well, where do you live? And when I found out she was like 1,900 miles away, I said, well, first of all, I don't have a gun for sale. And second of all, you couldn't come up here and buy a gun from me. If you wanted a gun from me, it would have to ship from my FFL to your state's FFL. And she basically was just like, well, you know, it's cool. We could just make the transaction, and this, you know, to that I'm like, and I'm like, yeah, this ain't happening. I'm not a licensed gun trainer, guys, but what I've always told people is I can give people the proper foundation to build upon, which is basically helping you out with your stance, your grip, trigger control, sight picture, and different things like that. Not getting bad habits, gun safety. The most important fundamental things usually start at the beginner level. And the most important to me, first and foremost, is gun safety. I don't mind if your stance is off a little bit, but if your safety's off when you handle a gun, that's where I'm going to come in very, very nicely, and I'm going to correct you on being safe with guns. Now, some people have a big ego, and they can't take being corrected when they mishandle a gun. But for the most part, new people and beginners, they will listen to you, and they'll do what you tell them to do. So anyhow, let me get off of that subject, and let's go on to, basically that was the story for that. And I just was like, I just emailed back and said, you know, hey, this ain't happening. What you're talking about is highly illegal, and it's just, you know, it's not going to happen. You know, basically I said, if you would come up here, I would teach you how to shoot and give you the building blocks, the foundation to start from, from the beginner's level, and, we could go from there. But other than that, nothing else has happened. Okay, so here's a very weird one that happened probably back in 2013, maybe 2012. I got contacted by somebody from China. And as you guys know, China can and will clone anything. They'll clone Rolexes. Anything you can think of, Nikes, that's name brand, they'll clone. They even clone stuff like this. It's not a good clone. You can always tell the difference, thank goodness, but they'll clone stuff like that Surefire X300 weapon light. So basically, they'll almost clone anything there is, but there's one thing that the Chinese have never cloned, and that is a firearm. So let me tell you guys the message I got. So I opened up my email. I got an email in from a guy in China, and he starts talking with me, and at first I really didn't understand where this guy was coming from and what all was going on. He basically started asking me, do I have any blueprints on a Glock handgun? Or can I get a hold of blueprints for a Glock 17? I don't even know if he said a model number, but basically, can I get a hold of blueprints for a Glock? And I really wasn't thinking at first, and I just messaged back and I said, hey, everything you want to know about a Glock, you can see on videos all over the internet, YouTube, whatever. And he said, no, he said, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for specifications for each and every single part of a Glock, from internal to external, with all the exact measurements of every piece of the gun. And if you can get a hold of a blueprint, or you can make me blueprints, my family owns several businesses here in China. We're very wealthy, and I will give you anything, basically we'll give you whatever you want up front before you send us the blueprints to a gun. And I thought, oh my goodness, I thought this guy's wanting to clone a gun. See, that's the only reason that people would want the exact measurements. And he mentioned something about the digital calipers. And see, this is what was going on. He was trying to get the exact measurements of every part so somebody in China could machine parts to this gun. Now, could it have been a prank? It could have, but I don't really get the point. If it was a prank, it wouldn't have been a very good one, because I never even brought it up until, 4 or 5 years later. But if it was a prank, it was a very bad one. And the way this guy talked and conversed, it did not seem like it was a kid. Basically, I was like, I'm not touching this. You're not going to get any of that information from me. And I never heard back again. But yeah, offered basically saying, we'll give you whatever you want. We're very wealthy. Okay, so let me go on to the next one. So when we talk about buying guns on the street, when we talk about shady gun deals or on the black market, there's a very thick line between two variances. So I got to tell you about this before I tell you the story. Okay, I've had stories of guys tell me that in Michigan, in the bad part of Michigan, which is pretty much the whole thing's bad, but I've had guys tell me that they can get a Glock for $150. And guys will joke when you get a gun. They'll say, "Hey, did you get it out of the back of Tony's car and pay $100 for it?" That would be like buying from a junkie, buying something that's hot, stolen goods. Just like guys that come around and they got gold or air compressors or whatever they have, and they're selling and hawking. Okay, then you have a very different circumstance where you have a black market gun dealer. And this would be somebody that would be offering guns to somebody in a very restricted state and would have things such as this. With, either hold 17 rounds or with the extender hold 24 rounds. Something such as this, which is restricted in New York and several other states. And this person is a black market gun dealer. Now, if you go to the junkie, or you go to the guy that's pawning stuff and he's got hot stuff and questionable things, yeah, you can pick up a Glock maybe for $100, $150. But if you go to the black market gun dealer who does this for a living and is involved in organized crime, you're going to probably pay quadruple what this gun would cost in a store. You're probably going to pay about $2,000 for that right there without the light. Because it's a very specialized trade on the black market, and you have certain clientele that are coming to you to get these items to use for gangs, mostly gangs, but criminal activity and anything else, organized crime, people that want guns and don't want paperwork, especially in places that are restricted. So I get a message from a guy, and he's like, hey, I watch a lot of your videos. I see, you got a lot of nice firearms and a lot of different things, and I'd like to make you an offer. And, and most of the times I'll answer these people back because I just want to see what they're going to say. So I said, well, what kind of offer are we talking about? Are you in Ohio? What firearm do you like? Basically, this guy emailed me back and said, I live in New York City, and I'm willing to meet you halfway, and I will pay you double retail price for any firearm that you bring me. You just tell me how many you're going to bring, and I'll pay you double retail. So basically, this gun retails at $600 or $700. So he was saying that he would pay $1,200 or $1,400 for that. So I would basically get retail price for the gun plus 100% of that on top of it. And of course, to that, I said, absolutely no way. Now, there's another thing too, guys, you got to watch for. Some of this stuff could be setups. It could be somebody setting you up. They see you're a gun channel. Now, I find this would be very rare. I don't really feel that there's enough time and energy and money to pay agents to go out and try to set a person up unless there was reason to believe. Now, like if there was reason to believe that a gun channel was manufacturing NFA weapons in his home and selling them to the public illegally, then you could run into a situation where somebody from an agency would contact you. But for an agency to cold call you, so to speak, to try to get you into a nefarious act would be very, very rare. But I told this guy, no way. I can't do it. Thanks for watching the videos, but I just can't go down that route, and it's something I'd never do. I never heard nothing back from the guy. Okay, so let me get into the next one. This one is very interesting, this story of what happened. So I'm in Ohio, as probably most everybody knows, and I get an email from a guy that tells me that he's in Cleveland, Ohio. And he says, I have a full auto Colt M16 that's been handed down to me. It's very old. It's not on any kind of papers. I want to get rid of this thing. I'm married, I have a kid, and I realize what I'm dealing with having this. I want to get rid of this thing. I can't sell it because it's never been registered to me. I can't list it because somebody could buy it and turn me in because it's not registered. And there's really nothing I can do with this thing. I don't want to destroy it. So this is what he told me. I would like to give you this full auto Colt M16 because I've watched your channel for years. I feel that you're somebody I could trust. I don't think this would come back on me, and I think you would take care of it. So would you be interested in taking this off of my hands? Basically said, I'm not a criminal. I've never had a criminal history. This has been passed down to me, and I just don't want it anywhere around me and my family. And, I gave him some advice on this rifle, and I absolutely did not take it, didn't even see it. I did ask him, though. I said, I want to ask you a question. He said, okay. I said, look at that lower receiver and tell me how many pins you see going through it. I said, you know what a pin is when it goes through the firearm? You could see going through where a hole would be drilled and there's a pin. I said, tell me how many pins are in that lower. He messaged me back and said 3. I was like, oh. Now that doesn't mean that this wasn't a hoax, but sometimes I'll question people on little things like that. Because we all know that you have to have 3 pins to have a truly full auto lower. You could use like a lightning link and that wouldn't have 3 pins, and there's other little workarounds. But if he's telling me that it is what he says it is, it would be a 3-pin lower. So he messaged me back and said it's a 3-pin lower. I said, okay. I said, well, I said, there's no way that I'm going to be able to do that. I'm just, I'm not going to be able to touch it. And, and like I said, and with all this stuff, of course, I didn't get anybody busted with this. I didn't see any pictures. There really is no proof. And there was not enough just cause to even go after this guy anyway, to try to arrest him. But he, it is what it is. Now, one of the weird questions that I've had before that I strayed away from, this had been some years ago. A female had contacted me and over email, and she told me that she was looking for a gun, and she wanted the specifics on, for that gun, what do I think would be the best hollow points for her to use. So I'm basically just treating it like anybody else that I would talk to from my channel that messages me. I'm telling her, hey, this is a good round, it'll do this, it'll do that. Well, then what totally threw me off the bus was when she messaged me back, and she says, if I were to fire this gun in a parking garage and it hit a concrete wall, what's the chances of this ricocheting back and killing me or hitting me? I can't remember which term she used. And something just flagged in my mind. I could be totally wrong, but something flagged in my mind and said, this woman's planning something. She's not wanting this gun to carry for herself. Now, it could very well be that she's a person that works where she walks in a parking garage every night, but why you would stipulate a parking garage when, if she does work where there's a parking garage, the other 90% of her day is outside of that. So something just, guys, I get a gut feeling about things, and a red flag went up. Immediately came to my mind something about, like, something about to deal with, like, a husband in another relationship or something going on. I just got all these things pop in my head, and I could be wrong, but I had a bad gut feeling when she asked me about if she shot this gun in a parking garage, would the bullet come back and strike her? It was more like, instead of like being a far out paranoia question, it was more like a matter-of-fact question, like it was something that she knew was going to happen. And that's what really sent up a red flag in my mind. And I never answered her back. Now, one of the nice things that's happened, guys, one of the really cool things that's happened on my channel was I was getting a message from somebody that told me that they were a viewer, just a random YouTube name with no avatar. And the guy kept asking me, what would a tall guy use? And I was saying, I'm 6'3", and this is what I use, and this is what works for me. He was asking about you, what would a tall guy use for carrying a gun? What kind of holster? And then he would always come back and say, no, I'm talking about really tall. And I'd say, well, all I can tell you is that I'm 6'3", and this works for me. Finally, after bantering back and forth, he said, well, I'm going to tell you something here. He said, but I don't want to tell you who I am. I said, okay. He said, I'm a professional basketball player. I play for the NBA, and I'm just under 7 foot tall. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. Now, I'm not a sports fan. I've never been a sports fan. Even if this guy would have told me his name, I don't know if I'd have known him or not. I just don't watch sports. I didn't grow up watching it. My dad was a boxing guy. My dad had boxing on. Like if there was a boxing match anywhere broadcast on TV, my dad was glued to the TV. But any other sports wasn't on when I was growing up. So, basically I just told the guy, I said, okay, I respect that. I said, it is cool, though, to know that you're watching my channel, whoever you are. I said, even though, I know that you're a professional basketball player that watches my channel, is just cool enough. So I basically helped the guy. I really then went into detail. Like, I really went into much, much more detail with him. I basically started emailing him pictures of different holsters on me, like carrying them on my side and, telling him, well, this is what this one does and this is what this one can do. And he was just new. He had a carry concealed permit, he told me, but he was new to carrying concealed. So he thought that because he was so big, because everything else in his life had to be special fit, he thought that might follow suit with the holster, which actually, most times, a bigger guy can carry a holster and conceal it more easily, a lot of times, than a real thin guy. So I helped him work that out. This has been a few years ago, and that was kind of a cool one, but I just thought you guys might enjoy this. these little stories. Sorry to be so long-winded on this video, guys, but I just felt that this was something that you guys might be interested in hearing. So, all right, guys, I will let you go. Until next time, this is H4T. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I am out.